our postmodern age of division, anger, anxiety, and confusion, the most dangerous weapon you have is your own mind.
Take control! Question everything!
This is the Intellectual Freedom Podcast.
Can I be super controversial with you for just one moment? Just between you and I, as this series is by its very nature going to be controversial pretty much from the beginning of it all the way to the end. But let me just say this. Wouldn't it have been nice if we had truly given democracy like it was actually envisioned in the Constitution a genuine try for more than just a few historical minutes? But I want to be honest with you in a hard way, in a way I'm not real happy to say, nor have I always thought this way, but the concept of Western democracy that was birthed in that bloody, messy set of revolutions across the West, especially in America and France, that style of democracy, it's dead. The culture it was intended to spawn is dead. And I think if we strip away our ego, we can all feel it. Some of us feel it constantly. Some of us only feel it when the other team wins an election and the other team throws out the, oh no, this time it will be the death of democracy as we know it. We've both heard it from both sides as we yo-yo back and forth from red to blue, Republican to Democrat, conservative to populist to liberal, and back again. But the one thing we need to come to terms with, sad as it is to say out loud, is that Western culture, our Western culture that was birthed from the Enlightenment ideas and ideals and emerged in the ashes of revolution, it's gone. We just don't know exactly how to put our finger on the pulse of the dead body yet. And if I'm going to be transparent and honest, I don't want it to be dead or gone. But in this podcast series, we're going to give it our absolute best shot. I'm going to give it my absolute best shot to try and deconstruct this thing that we are currently living in. We're going to try and understand what is shaking beneath our feet right now. Today, while you're listening at home or on your commute or at the gym, you might think I'm being hyperbolic. You might be rolling your eyes thinking, here he goes again, another doomer saying the sky is falling. And your initial instinct might be to just dismiss this thing, to tell yourself, nah, things really aren't that bad. You're overreacting. So let's just look at some actual numbers. Let's look where we stand right now. Trust in the federal government, 20%. Pew Research says this. Look, if that was our only problem, we could overcome it. We've hated the government before, won't be the last time. But trust in the public education system, 36% by Gallup. Again, if that was just the isolated issue, we could probably somehow figure out a way to fix it. Trust in mass media, 32%. Suppose we could fix that too, or just stop watching cable news, super easy there. Trust in the medical system, 34%. With some brutal financial reforms, we could probably fix that. Trust in the police, 43%. Training, PR, we'd probably fix that too. Trust in the judicial system and the Supreme Court, 47%. Still not terrible, right? We can reform it. But here's the one. that breaks the back of this entire experiment. Trust in each other, aka the political divide. Barely 20% of Americans trust the quote unquote opposing party to simply do what's right. Ouch. That one stings. How pathetic is that? How pathetic is it that we allow the machine, politicians, media, social media, to convince all of us average people, that the other guy living across the street flying a Trump flag or some other Antifa something, I don't care what it is, the other guy across the street, now that's the real problem. We can't even sit across the table at Thanksgiving anymore without someone throwing a dinner roll at their loudmouth uncle. I mean, I could rattle off another 5 or 6 institutions where trust is just evaporating, but taken as a whole, things have fallen apart. When trust is gone, the system is doomed to fail. The fact is, there's very little that we have faith left anymore. Not our institutions, not even our own fellow citizens. And if you don't believe our culture is quote unquote dead, I think maybe you can at least agree that it's on life support. So this brings us to the core of what we're doing here with this new series. And normally, I stick to the classics, wisdom literature. Just finished up that Plato series. Wow, what an amazing series. I'm so happy so many people tuned into it. I hope you were able to tune into it. And I hope even more, were you able to read your way through that book? Because it is not an easy slog, is it? If you made it, hey, kudos to you. Very, very impressive. But so why are we going right now full throttle modern for the next 5 weeks? And upon finishing up Plato, I just felt it's time. There's just an unsettled queasiness in our world right now. We sense things are not right. And I ran across a book that diagnoses why better than anything I've read in quite some time. So I thought I would share it with you. And this is the book. Go buy it. I promise you it's way easier and way faster to read than our Plato series. It does. It reads super fast. The book is called Against the Machine on the Unmaking of Humanity. I'll say that one more time. Against the Machine on the Unmaking of Humanity, by a modern writer by the name of Paul Kingsnorth. And before we dive into the mechanics of this book, I need to stage the atmosphere, the spiritual atmosphere for you. So Kingsnorth is an incredibly interesting guy, heavily influenced by poets. And to cue up a conversation about the machine, which sounds like such a vague sci-fi trope, we need a framework. So what is the machine? I mean, you hear this again and again. What is the machine? Who runs it? Are we doomed to just be cogs in it? This isn't a new question or a new anxiety, but Kingsnorth, in his book, he cites a Welsh poet. And his name is R.S. Thomas, and he perfectly captured the eerie, lonely reality of modern isolation. And this poem will be, it's hard to call it the cornerstone of our conversation, because that's maybe a little much, but kind of the feeling of this poem, it lingers across the pages. And I think it should linger in your mind today as you hear it, wherever you're listening in. The poem captures I guess you could call it our postmodern sensibilities so perfectly. And it just might make the hair on your arms kind of stand up. So listen to it. So R.S. Thomas, poems called The Other. The machine appeared in the distance, singing to itself of money. Its song was the web. They were caught in, men and women together. The villages were as flies to be sucked empty. God secreted a tear. Enough, enough, he commanded. But the machine looked at him and went on singing. Just let that sit there for a second. Think about the archetypal weight of that. I want to read it one more time because I really want you to dial in, hone in, listen into this. The machine appeared in the distance, singing to itself of money. Its song was the web they were caught in, men and women together. The villages were as flies to be sucked empty. God secreted a tear. Enough, enough, he commanded. But the machine looked at him and went on singing. Okay, now let's break this thing down carefully. There's a seduction here. As the machine appeared, singing to itself of money, money, money. Notice one thing here. The machine does not arrive with grinding gears or the destructive roar of a tank. It doesn't kick your door down. It sings. It is seductive. The machine offers convenience, next day delivery, endless dopamine and wealth. But the terrifying part? It's singing to itself. It doesn't actually care about you or me or us. Its only language is extraction. But then comes the entrapment. Its song was the web they were caught in. This is the ultimate tragic illusion of the modern age. We thought, and we still think today, right now, as AI marches forward at breakneck speed, like we're heading towards an unknown, undefinable future, and that we're building tools to set us free, to give us more leisure time, but we're actually just weaving our own cage. The convenience of the smartphone, the algorithm, the globalized economy, that is the web, and it catches all of us. And then we have the parasite. The villages were as flies to be sucked empty. Kingsnorth has a deep, profound love for localism and place, nature, the real world, the one you can touch and feel and breathe in. But the machine cannot tolerate the small, the local, the rooted. It views human communities not as things to be nurtured, but as resources to be mined. It convinces the masses that small towns, small communities they're backwards, they're ignorant, they're silly little places for the peasants. That's the lie the machine teaches. The machine drains the lifeblood out of towns where family, community, faith, togetherness thrive. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be a small town. It could be a community inside of a large city, but the machine despises those type of community connections. It wants nothing more than to suck dry and leave behind hollowed out shells full of people addicted to the grind, addicted to the grid, addicted to the machine. And I think this next part's maybe the toughest one. So the usurpation. As the poem says, God secreted a tear and said, enough, enough. But the machine looked at him and went on singing. This is the gut punch. In traditional theology, God sets the limits of creation. Here God sees the destruction, weeps for humanity, and commands the machine to stop. So of course the machine should obey, right? That's the theology. At least listen to God. But the machine just looks at the creator of the universe, entirely unbothered, and goes right back to its song and singing. It's deaf. It's deaf to the divine. It could care less about the divine. It has upended God and become its own unstoppable force. We can't go any further along before I spend some time and define the machine, because I think, myself included, when I picked up this book for the first time, I was so curious, like, what is he talking about? How do we define this machine? What are we actually up against? We have to define the enemy, right? The machine is not just your iPhone. It's not just ChatGPT. Kingsnorth defines it like this, quote, "The machine is not simply the sum total of various individual technologies. The machine is, rather, a tendency within us manifesting today as an intersection of money, power, state power, and increasingly coercive and manipulative technologies, which constitute an ongoing war against roots and against limits," end quote. I guess we could say it's an ideology. It is the triumph of the planned over the organic. It views the messy human condition as a math problem to be solved rather than a gift to be experienced. It wants to sand off all the rough edges, all those rough, beautifully human edges, and create a frictionless existence. And it's insatiable. There's never enough money. There's never enough power. There's never enough things. There's always more. Progress. It doesn't care what your vice is: money, power, materialism, sex, outrage. It offers up unending appetites. The machine will find your preference because it's efficient that way, and it will gobble you up. Hook, line, and sinker. So let me transition and let's talk about this author. It's Paul Kingsnorth, and he's not a run-of-the-mill political pundit on cable news. You're gonna, if you think that, you're gonna be very disappointed. I don't even know what to call this guy. He's kind of bizarre, fascinating mix. He's kind of a Frodo Baggins, Ted Kaczynski mix. I don't know. He started out as a radical tree-hugging environmental activist in the 90s. But he eventually realized that standard eco-activism was just another branch of the machine, which he'll talk about in the book. It was just trying to use technology to save us from technology. It was pseudo-religious cult. So he bailed. He bailed from it. He moved to rural Ireland. He learned to grow his own food. He homeschooled his own kids. He transitioned from a Wicca and Zen mixing Buddhist type to Orthodox Christianity. And here's a quote that frames his entire mindset. Quote, if you look at the environmental crisis and ask, why is this happening? Maybe it's politics. Then you realize it's not that. You keep going down and down and down, and you realize the crisis is not technological or economic or political. It's cultural, which means actually it's spiritual. End quote. Let's break that down, because to understand that quote is to understand Kingsnorth. And so he sees the symptoms of the machine: politics, tech, economics. We're just obsessed with structural fixes. We think if we just elect the right guy or tweak the tax code, we will be saved. But these are just mechanisms. How often have we been seduced by political promises, thinking they would fix society, only to wake up 4 years later feeling worse? If the soul is sick, the mechanisms fail. So then we get to the culture. He goes deeper, and we're going to go deeper in this book. And politics don't just appear out of the ether. Whether you love Donald Trump or you hate Donald Trump, they are a result of what a society values. Thinks Trump's terrible, but Biden was great, or Kamala Harris was great. They are results of what a society values. A culture that worships hyper-individualism and endless consumption will inevitably build an extractive economy and a polarized, toxic political system. But even culture doesn't go deep enough for this book, as we're going to read together. We get to a spiritual core. You might be atheist listening in. That does not mean you can't follow through on this, because this is the punchline. Spiritual doesn't mean you have to be sitting in a pew on Sunday morning. Although Kingsnorth is a Christian, it does mean this: asking the deepest human questions. What are we? Are there limits we should respect? And what do we worship? And you might be sitting here listening and you are not a person of faith at all, but that does not free you from being able to answer this question deeply, profoundly, and honestly. Who are you? Are there limits that you need to respect? And what do you worship? See, modernity's spiritual disease is the Enlightenment arrogance that we, you and I, are gods who can master the universe with our intellect and our critical thinking and our minds. But how many people today would say that we are more ethical, we are more honest, we are more kind to each other, we are more humble to each other, we are less controlled by money and power and influence today than we were in prior generations? Kingsnorth in this book will opposite that because our spirit has become arrogant, our culture is disconnected, our economics are greedy, and our environment is collapsing. So if you made it this far, let me give you 4 reasons why you need this series in your life. Let's just get down to brass tacks. Why do you need to listen to this series and read this book? Please read the book when you listen to this series. Own it yourself. Don't let me deliver it to you. Own the knowledge yourself. And the way that you own the knowledge is you read it. I want to give you something you can sink your teeth into. Number 1, you're going to name the ghost that is in the room, or the elephant that's in the room, if you prefer. Have you felt that low-grade exhaustion, that sense that no matter how much progress we make, life just feels more frantic, more artificial, more isolating? Why is everyone so angry? You aren't lazy. You aren't crazy. Left, right, conservative, liberal. Everyone's feeling it. The book validates that unease. We're going to name the elephant in the room so you can stop blaming yourself for feeling burned out, maybe feeling insane about a system that was literally engineered to burn you out. Number 2, you're going to claim your mind from the algorithm. We all know we spend too much time on screens. Boring, we all know it. Not spending lots of time there. But the machine doesn't just want your attention. It wants to rewire how you vote, how you love. What's your view on your career? We're going to break down how the grid, this machine, is farming your behavior. And we're going to talk about how to take back your autonomy. You are not a byproduct. You do have agency. Number 3, we are escaping the exhaustive political circus. By the end of this series, you will never watch a cable news story or hear a politician speak the same way again. I promise you. If you're sick of the hyper-polarized culture wars, where everyone screams and nothing ever gets fixed, this is your exit ramp. Fighting over which politician gets to steer the machine is utterly pointless. If the vehicle itself is driving us off a cliff, so we're going to shift the battleground. We are going to free ourselves intellectually from this circus. And it is a circus. Make no mistake. If you are hardcore left or right, you're part of this circus. You're living it. If you get exhausted by it, you're caught up in it. And I hope that by the end of this, maybe, just maybe, you can free yourself from the insanity that this machine has you trapped in. And that's for both sides, left, right, blue, red, don't care. It's all the same. Number 4, we're going to build a lifeboat. And this is the most important one. This isn't going to be a 5-week doom scroll. We're going to build an actionable or concrete hope, I guess you would call it. Not that fake YouTube influencer hope. I mean, real hope. You don't have to move to a cabin in the woods or throw your iPhone in the ocean to fight back. We will, and I hope I will give you Kingsnorth's blueprint for technological freedom. Everyday ways you can plant your feet in the ground, invest in your local community, and build a human scale life right exactly where you are today. So think back to those statistics at the beginning of the show. 20% trust in government, 32% trust in media. We we don't trust our institutions. We just don't, because they have become cogs in the machine, and the machine does not care about you. It does not care about me. It definitely does not care about the human soul or humanity. It just sings to itself about money and power and influence. And we have to understand the machine. You have to understand the machine so that you can target it and kill it, or at the very least, subdue it in your life. Because once you do that, a new life of peace and contentment and wisdom and perspective can all emerge. So, we begin next week. There are 4 parts in this book. When you get the book and you look at it, you will see it. We are going to take one part of the book per week. Sometimes there's multiple chapters in each. Well, there's multiple chapters in each section of the book, but we are going to go 4 weeks, 4 parts to the book, and I'm inviting you, I am challenging you to go buy it. Read part 1. join me right back here next week. I am so pumped to start this series as we start dismantling the machine.